They called it my hobby. They said it with smiles that were just tight enough to count as warnings. At cookouts, my uncles carved meat and carved me too, little jokes about Ethan's little side hustle, about my startup with no customers, and my podcast nobody hears. My mother loved me in the way mothers do when they're frightened, by keeping a running tally of job postings I might apply to if the whole creative thing doesn't pan out. I did not argue. I learned early that arguing spends energy you need later. So I nodded, washed plates, carried chairs. I didn't defend my plan. I protected it, like a small flame cupped in both hands on a windy night. I work nights, not because it's noble, but because night is the only time nobody wants anything from you. I rented a corner of a co-working space that used to be a shoe store. The floors still smelled faintly like rubber and rain. I sat under a buzzing light with a refurbished laptop, a microphone that arrived with a scratch down the side, and the kind of stubbornness that makes doctors tell you to get more sleep. I recorded 2 episodes a week, conversations with people who make unglamorous things, bridge inspectors, line cooks, lab techs, the woman at the water department who knows every pipe in our county by memory and creek. I call the show Quiet Hands. No sponsors, no hype, just a simple promise, the work behind the work. Nobody listened. Then a few did. Then more. It wasn't a spike. It was a slope. Steady. Honest. 1,000. Then 10. Then 100,000 on a day when the download graph looked like a mountain I almost didn't recognize as mine. I didn't tell anyone at home. Not because I'm humble, God knows I'm not, but because I wanted to find out who I was without applause. I wanted to see if the work could carry my weight before I let family lean on it. The first sponsor came from a machine shop in Ohio. The owner, a woman with forearms that could bend a myth, sent me an email that said, "We don't do ads, but my crew listens during lunch. Would you take some money if we called it lunch?" I said yes. We called it lunch. It paid my studio rent for 3 months. The second sponsor was a tool brand I didn't trust. I said no. The check they offered made me sit down. I said no again. Saying no felt like discovering a muscle I didn't know I had. It hurt. Then it held. Meanwhile, my family's questions sharpened. "How's the job search?" My mother asked with a kindness that cut in the way only kindness can. "I'm working," I said. "At what?" My uncle said, not mean, just tired of my answers that refused to stand still. "At getting good," I said. He laughed like I'd told the wrong joke. My oldest friend, Mark, called on a Sunday to tell me, with the generosity of the recently promoted, that I should treat this like a season. He used the word bridge 4 times. Bridge job, bridge plan, bridge mindset. He asked if I wanted to pick up some contract work auditing spreadsheets for his firm. "I'm full," I said. "Full of what?" he said, half laughing. "Work," I said. He sighed the sigh of a man who thinks your life would go better if it looked more like his. 3 months later, Quiet Hands hit 1 million downloads. Someone who makes documentaries wrote an article that called it the most honest show you didn't know you needed. A different someone clipped my episode with a bridge inspector and turned 2 minutes of it into the internet's favorite cry for a week. I still didn't post about it. I didn't send links to the family text chain. I bought myself a better chair and learned how to sit without hurting. I put half the sponsor money in a savings account I named Winter. I put the rest into a small team, Lena to edit, or into book guests, Shay to handle the inbox. We worked quiet and clean. We missed some days. We apologized and meant it. We got back on schedule. Then a publisher reached out. "We'd like a book," they said. A year inside the work that holds a city up. "I'm not a writer," I said. "You are," the editor said, "because you already are." I signed. I wrote in the mornings when my voice hadn't learned how to lie yet. I recorded at night when it didn't matter if anyone believed me. I slept in the middle badly. The book came out with a paper jacket the color of a good pencil. It did better than anybody planned. Bookstores that smell like coffee and hope put it in their front windows. A construction worker sent me a photo of it wedged in the dashboard of a crane. The mayor, who has a talent for arriving at the end of work and calling it ribbon cutting, invited me to a luncheon where he said my name into a microphone he hadn't earned. I stayed anonymous to the family through all of it. Not because I wanted to trick them. Because I wanted to test something I didn't have language for back then. Would I keep going if nobody clapped? The answer turned out to be yes. The yes surprised me. I've been sure I was weaker than that. The reveal happened by accident. I was on a panel downtown, work you don't see, with a nurse, a janitor who handles trauma cleanups, and a bicycle mechanic who saves people's commutes for a living. The moderator introduced me as the host of Quiet Hands and the author of The Work Behind the Work. We talked about invisible labor and the strange intimacy of listening to strangers tell the truth. The room had good chairs and bad coffee. The audience looked like a city: boots, suits, and a guy in a shirt that said "I bill for a living" in letters that refused to apologize. Afterward, I walked into the lobby, and there they were. My mother held a program. My uncle held a paper cup of lemonade like proof that this place served something for free. Mark stood with his head tilted, like maybe I would look shorter from that angle, and more like the version of me he understood. "Ethan," my mother said, like she was saying a new word. "You're this." "I'm this," I said. "For how long?" Mark asked. "From the start," I said. My uncle nodded, the nod men use when they're recalculating everything they've ever said to you and trying not to choke on it. "I listened to the bridge episode," he said. "Nearly cried, and I haven't cried since my transmission went in '97. "Thank you," I said. My mother touched my elbow like it might run away. "Why didn't you tell us?" I could have said I was protecting the work. I could have said I didn't want it to be about me. The truth was simpler. "I couldn't hold your doubt and my deadlines at the same time," I said. She blinked. The truth rearranged her face. "Fair," she said, and I loved her for it. The asks came quickly. They always do once success is visible enough to reflect someone else's need. Mark went first. "We're raising," he said, like announcing weather. "If you put in 50 today, I can slide you into RA. We'll do a safe. You'll be on the right side when we up round." "No," I said. He blinked. "You didn't even—" "I did," I said. "Between and we'll do a safe." "No." My uncle cleared his throat the way men do before they pull a favor out of it. "Your cousin's boy is looking for a job. He's good with his hands. Could you—" "We're not hiring," I said. "And when we are, we don't do it by last name." My mother tried a different door. "Your cousin Tessa wrote a book. She says yours is what gave her courage. Could you show her your proposal? Just a peek?" "I can't," I said. "That's how I keep the lights on. I give it to the people who paid me to write it." "Just this once," she said soft. "I love you," I said. "And no." People talk about hard no like it's a shout. Mine wasn't. It was level. That was the part nobody liked, the evenness. Even is harder to argue with. Even doesn't give you anything to push against. Mark put his hands on his hips like we were in a gym, and I had failed at the obvious exercise. "You've changed," he said. "I stopped volunteering as other people's plan B," I said. He laughed once short. "You're going to be lonely." "I was already lonely," I said. "I just stopped performing cheerfulness about it." He didn't like that. It's not my job to make him like things. That evening, I went back to the old shoe store, now a studio with a desk that knows the shape of my elbows. I answered the inbox with gratitude and boundaries. "Thank you. No pitches through DMs. Here's our page. Yes, we pay. No, we don't do exposure." I wired a grant to a community college welding program because the city needs more welders than podcasters, and I am not confused about that. I closed the laptop at 2. I slept without dreaming about numbers. When I woke, the coffee tasted like a small oath. The next few weeks were quieter. People who had texted me every day forgot how. Mark posted photos from rooftop bars with sunsets so expensive they looked leased. My family shifted to a new equilibrium. Sunday dinners felt like rooms in a house we were all learning to live in again. There were fewer jokes at my expense and more questions that didn't arrive as weapons. My mother sent me recipes she remembered from my father's mother's kitchen. My uncle sent me a voicemail of him crying during the janitor episode and said, "Don't tell anybody." Also, thanks. A profile ran in a local paper. The headline was silly. The journalist wasn't. He asked about the nights I almost quit. I told him the truth. There were more than people imagine and fewer than it takes. He asked what I'm proudest of. I didn't say downloads or checks. I said that Lena owns her mornings now, and Oren pays his mother's rent on time, and Shay stops working at 6. He asked what I'd say to my family if I could go back to the beginning. I stared at his recorder like it could rewind more than tape. Nothing, I said. If I could tell them one thing, I'd have to hear one thing back. And the work needed quiet. He turned off the recorder and said, "That's going to make some people mad." "That's not my weather," I said. A month later, the mayor handed me a plaque with my name spelled right. I put it in a drawer with the batteries and the screwdriver nobody ever finds when they need it. The same afternoon, a woman in a grocery store stopped me by the green onions and said, "My dad drove a plow for 30 years and never felt seen until your snow episode." I listened with him. He cried. I did too. Not loud. Enough. I went home and stood at the window above my desk. The city did what cities do. Trucks grumbling, buses sighing, people moving the day forward one step at a time. Quiet Hands wasn't saving the world. It was noticing it, and in the noticing, it was changing me into someone I recognized when I was alone. I thought about the price of it. Birthdays I left early, parties I skipped, a year when my shoes were the nicest thing I owned because I couldn't afford to replace my coat. I thought about arguments I didn't have, not because I was saintly, but because I wanted the energy for page 3. I thought about every no I practiced under my breath until it would stand up on its own. They never thought I would amount to anything. They never said it straight to my face, not in those words, but it was there in the pauses and the small jokes that only grow in certain kinds of soil. Now they know. They ask for money sometimes. They ask for favors. I say no when I need to and yes when I can afford it. I don't keep a ledger. I keep alive. At night, when the light over the desk comes and the city lowers its voice, I press my palms to the wood that has held me up. I listen to the room breathe and make sure I'm still breathing with it. I think about the bridge inspector who taught me to walk steel like a prayer, the janitor who taught me to close the door on horror gently, the mechanic who told me that saving a commute can save a week. I think about the boy I was when the whole world called my work a hobby. I don't say much to him. Just this keep going. They said I wouldn't make it. And now, well, if you need proof, sit with me while the downloads climb in the dark and the emails arrive at angles and the coffee cools slower than you think it will. Just look.